today, another Pakistani rape gang was convicted. 7 men, there they are, 7 men have been found guilty of grooming abuse offences against 2 teenage girls in Rochdale between 2001 and 2006. They are getting named and shamed, OK? We've got Mohammed Zahid, Naheem Akram, Mohammed Shahzad, Nisar Hussain, Rohiz Khan, Mushtaq Ahmed and Kasir Bashir. The girls were abused in alleyways, warehouses, taxis, filthy houses, rank mattresses, damp basements. It's horrific. Our reporter Charlie Peters was at the particular case. He says that the evidence was some of the worst he'd ever heard. 4 of these men, though, 4 of these men, Zahid, Bashir, Ahmed and Khan, were born in Pakistan. So they are Pakistani. They came to Britain and then they committed this kind of abuse. Should they be deported, do you think?
Yes. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Without a shadow of a doubt. It's common sense. It's common sense. Well, just before I came on air, this news broke. A new report from the National Audit on Group-Based Child Sexual Exploitation and Abuse. It's a big report, this. It's due out next week. Well, the Sun newspaper claims that they've had advance sight of this report, and they say that this report is the first one of its kind, specifically links illegal immigration to violence against vulnerable girls. OK? Now, apparently, the government is afraid of this report because of stuff like this. So the Home Office has said, oh, well, look, hey, nothing is more important than protecting vulnerable children. And we are determined to crack down on vile grooming gangs once and for all. That's why we ordered a rapid national audit to uncover the true scale of the horrific abuse. This report, alongside our response, will be published shortly. But let's be honest, they're terrified of civil unrest, aren't they? They're absolutely terrified of it. And I think that they fear civil unrest more than they fear young British girls being abused by foreign men. Let's get the views of my panel. I don't know if anyone in the audience wants to make any points on this as well, but Adam, I'll start with you again. So we are waiting for confirmation as to whether or not they're going to deport these men. This is an easy win for the government. There's 4 Pakistani men there who were born in Pakistan. Get them gone, surely.
If they're not deported, then I believe there could be trouble on the streets of this country. It is a tinderbox out there. I'm a father of 2 girls. Stories like this infuriate me and anger me more than most. These monsters are disproportionately more likely to be involved in the sexual grooming and raping of children. Pakistani men are 4 to 5 times more likely to be involved in this. We have a serious problem in this country, and the only deterrent now is hard justice, and that hard justice needs to be imprisonment for those that are born here and deportation for those that weren't.
God, Adam, stop being so far right. Honestly, you really are. You're so far right. But that is what is going to be said. I mean, that's the problem. And actually, this is all linked, because what we're seeing in Northern Ireland, what we're seeing in what we saw in Southport, this is people who are wrong, by the way. Rioting is always wrong, but these are people who are absolutely sick to the back teeth of nothing being done. And look, fair play, because actually the detective superintendent in charge of this said that the force should have done more at the time, because these girls were dismissed. They were under the care of children's services in Rochdale as well, and weren't properly looked after. Just very quickly, I spoke to Maggie Oliver today.
Yep. And she's just for everyone, she's the she
was the whistleblowing detective from Rochdale, who now has the Maggie Oliver Foundation. My God, she thinks the sun shines out of you because of the money you raised for her, which of course was amazing.
Well, it wasn't me, it was everyone.
It was everyone. That's amazing. If I say your name, I'll get a diatribe of praise for you. But she is so crestfallen by all of this. And do you know there are 7 more trials to come?
Right,
which are linked to all of this. I mean, this is why we get unrest. This is why we end up with all of this.
Bill, do you think some of the things that Adam said there were a bit too far, or what do you reckon?
I very strongly welcome the guilty verdicts that have come out today. When you read some of the detail of this case, that 13-year-old girls in children's homes, and the officials knew they were going off with men in their 50s and 60s. and they didn't report it. It beggars belief, and it needs to be tackled. The fact that the government is bringing in changes to make it a criminal offence to cover up any report of child sexual abuse is hugely important. The review that you're referring to, is, as I understand it, is the Louise Casey review, an audit to uncover the scale of the grooming gangs and their ethnicity. Louise Casey takes no prisoners, and I think it is very likely that part of the outcome of that is going to be deportation, and the immigration white paper made it easier to deport.
But we've been trying to deport 2 other Rochdale grooming gang convicts for a while. We've got Adil Khan and Abdul Kwari Rauf, who we've been trying to deport for longer than 13 years. It's been absolutely... So there they are. We've been trying... And what they did was they realised that they were up for deportation, and between them and their crafty lawyers decided to shred their Pakistani passports, which means that technically, if we deported them, we'd make them stateless. Well, I don't really think anyone cares about that. One of them works as a food delivery driver now in the local area. So if you order food, one of his victims orders food in that area, he might knock on her door and deliver it to her. It's mental. And, you know, if the government really is, Miriam, afraid of civil unrest, maybe they should care more about the actual problem.
Well, absolutely, and it's understandable how angry people are. I mean, it's just an astonishing case, and when you read the detail and you think about what actually was endured by those children for so many years, and the fact that because they were so vulnerable, they were in children's homes, they didn't have parents, they didn't have anyone to advocate them. Some of them didn't even realise that what was happening to them was out of the ordinary. They didn't report it. And of course, they would have been too afraid to do so anyway. I think it just begs so many questions about our society, not just the cowardice about covering up things in case they seem racist, but also how we can abandon this many children and have this attitude, well, if they've chosen that lifestyle, then we won't report it, which is just shocking. There's so many layers of wrong. But I think underneath it all, it does prove that culture matters. And if you're part of a culture that doesn't think white girls, for example, have any value, then are we surprised?
I think it's racist. I think what's racist here is the abuse. I think that's what it is.
These are actually should have been tried as hate crimes.
Stats cannot be racist, and the reason that the Labour government do not want a full inquiry into this, let's be honest, is because the Labour Party are up to this in their necks. From councillors to politicians, Labour is rotten to the core with the grooming gang scandal.
Adam, that's a lie, it's smear and abuse. This Labour government...
What, Labour councillors and that weren't involved in this bill, no?
You've had a say, let me have my say.
What, Labour councillors weren't involved in it, Bill, no?
This Labour government is gripping the problem.
Answer me, Bill.
I'm answering.
Labour councillors weren't involved, no?
I'm answering you. This Labour government is gripping the problem and making change happen in a way the previous Conservative government did not.
They're blocking a national inquiry bill.
Keir Starmer, when he was Director of Public Prosecutions, and you listen to Andrew Norfolk, who's the Times journalist...
He failed at his job.
Can you let me make a point? Andrew Norfolk, who's recently died, the Times journalist who exposed the grooming gang scandal, credits Keir Starmer of recognising there was a major problem, changing the prosecutorial rules so that action should be taken.
So why was it still covered up? Why did it still go on, Bill? That is absolute nonsense. They're up to this in their neck.
We're 10 months in power, and we've ordered a complete audit of the scale of the problem.
And you've pushed back on a national inquiry.
Yeah, because a national inquiry would cost over £10 million and take 10 years.
Money well spent.
Now.
Money well spent.
In this room, do people feel as though the Labour government is handling the issue of the Pakistani rape gangs well? No. Right, OK.
I must be far right again then, Bill, because all these people agree with me.
All right.